Welcome to my channel Most Worth Coins, WC Today. Videos is one you won't to miss. We're diving into the world of top 4 quarter-dollar coins. So let's get it started. The 1980 United States quarter dollar, commonly referred to simply as the 1980 Washington quarter, is an important issue in the long-running series of U.S. quarters featuring the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States. This design, originally introduced in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of Washington's birth, had by 1980 become a familiar and trusted staple of American coinage. The Washington quarter remained virtually unchanged in its core design for decades, offering Americans a tangible connection to the nation's founding ideals through everyday transactions. The obverse, front, of the 1980 quarter features the left-facing profile of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan, based on the famous bust created by French neoclassical sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon. On the obverse include the word liberty arched above Washington's head, the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left, and the date 1980 centered at the bottom beneath the bust. Notably, starting in 1977, the Mint subtly sharpened the design details to reflect modernized coinage standards, and the 1980 quarters continued this trend with more refined facial features and stronger lettering compared to earlier years. The reverse, back, of the 1980 quarter shows a heraldic bald eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, with 2 olive branches positioned below, a classical American symbol of military readiness balanced with a desire for peace. Above the eagle's head is the United States of America, while the motto, "A pluribus unum," out of many one, appears just above the eagle. The denomination quarter dollar is inscribed at the bottom. This reverse design had remained consistent since its debut, only seeing replacement years later in 1999 with the launch of the 50-state quarters program. The 1980 quarter was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins minted in Philadelphia carry no mint mark. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark, and the San Francisco issues for that year bear an S, although San Francisco produced only proof coins for collectors, not coins intended for general circulation. The mint mark on the 1980 quarter is located on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. One important historical context of the 1980 quarter is the metal composition. Prior to 1965, U.S. quarters were made of 90% silver. However, due to rising silver prices, Congress passed legislation in the mid-1960s changing the composition of quarters to a clad composition. The quarters struck in 1980 consist of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. This gave the quarter its characteristic silvery appearance while maintaining a much lower intrinsic metal value compared to earlier silver coins. In terms of mintages, the production numbers for 1980 were quite high, reflecting the nation's growing population and economic activity. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 635 million quarters without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint struck over 518 million with the D mark. San Francisco minted about 3.5 million proof quarters, which were sold directly to collectors in special sets. The large mintages make most 1980 quarters very common even today in circulated condition. However, pristine, high-grade examples, especially those graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services, can command significant premiums among collectors. An interesting aspect of the 1980 quarter is the occasional appearance of errors and varieties. Although there are no famously rare or dramatic error types for this year, collectors have identified examples with struck-through errors, where foreign material becomes impressed into the die, clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing, due to an error during blanking, and slight die cracks or die chips, often appearing around the lettering or in Washington's hair. These anomalies, while typically minor, are sought after by specialists in error coinage and can elevate a quarter's value depending on the severity and appeal of the mistake. In the broader context of numismatics, the study of coins, the 1980 quarter represents a transitionary period for the Washington Quarter series. The early 1980s saw discussions within the U.S. Mint and Congress about updating coinage designs and improving minting technology. Although the basic Washington design would survive for another 2 decades, changes were already underway behind the scenes to modernize U.S. coin production. Thus, the 1980 quarter, while seemingly ordinary, is part of a pivotal decade that ultimately led to major changes in the appearance and production of American coinage in the 1990s and beyond. When examining a 1980 quarter today, collectors pay close attention to the coin's condition, or grade. Coins in circulated condition typically exhibit wear on the high points of Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. Uncirculated specimens, those showing no signs of wear, often have sharp details and original mint luster. Proof versions, struck in San Francisco with specially polished dies and planchets, are easily distinguishable by their mirror-like fields and frosted devices. Collectors often seek proof examples with deep cameo contrast, designated as DCAM, deep cameo, by grading services. In terms of market value, most circulated 1980 quarters are worth only their face value of 25 cents, given their commonality. However, uncirculated quarters from 1980 can be worth $2 to $5 depending on quality, and certified high-grade coins, like MS-67 examples, might bring $100 or more at auction, although such high-grade examples are not easy to find. Proof coins can sell for $3 to $10 depending on their condition and the presence of strong cameo contrast. In conclusion, while the 1980 Washington quarter may not be one of the most rare or valuable coins in U.S. history, it holds a significant place within the ongoing story of American numismatics. As a product of its time, it reflects the practical needs of an expanding economy, the evolution of coinage technology, and the enduring legacy of George Washington's image as a symbol of national identity. For many Americans, handling a 1980 quarter was, and still is, a simple, everyday interaction. Yet for coin collectors and historians, it serves as a small but tangible artifact of the era, carrying with it the subtle marks of history and craftsmanship that make every coin a miniature window into the past. The 1982 United States quarter dollar, commonly called the 1982 Washington quarter, marks a very interesting year in the history of American coinage. Like all Washington quarters since 1932, the coin bears the classic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, based on a famous bust sculpted by Jean-Antoine Houdon. By 1982, the Washington quarter had already become one of the most recognized and longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history. However, 1982 was a year of significant change and challenges for the U.S. Mint, and coins from this year reflect those circumstances in ways that are important for both collectors and historians. The obverse front of the 1982 quarter features Washington's left-facing profile with the word Liberty arched above his head and the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left. The date 1982 appears below his bust. Beginning in the late 1970s and into the early 1980s, slight modifications were made to Flanagan's original design to sharpen the details and adapt the die work for more modern minting processes. As a result, 1982 quarters often show sharper, more refined features in Washington's hair and facial details compared to earlier decades, although heavy circulation can sometimes obscure these improvements. The reverse, back, continues the traditional Washington quarter design, showing a heraldic bald eagle with wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath. Around the eagle, read, United States of America at the top, a pluribus unum just above the eagle's head, and quarter dollar at the bottom. This reverse design had been a fixture on American coinage for half a century by 1982 and would remain unchanged until the launch of the state quarters program in 1999. One of the major historical points about the 1982 quarter is that it was issued during a time of economic recession and budgetary restrictions. As a result, the U.S. Mint made some important cost-cutting decisions. Most significantly for collectors, the Mint did not produce official mint sets in 1982. That is, the specially packaged sets of uncirculated coins from each mint facility that were typically sold to collectors. This decision had a profound impact on the availability of high-grade 1982 quarters. Without mint sets, collectors today have a much harder time finding pristine, uncirculated examples of the 1982 quarter, making high-grade coins much scarcer compared to other years. Regarding minting facilities, the 1982 quarter was struck at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins bear no mint mark, Denver coins carry a D mint mark, and San Francisco coins, bearing an S, were only produced as proof coins for collectors, not for general circulation. The mint mark is located on the obverse side, just to the right of Washington's ponytail, and it is an important detail when identifying varieties and origins of these coins. The composition of the 1982 quarter remained the same as it had since the mid-1960s. It consists of a clad composition, that is, a sandwich of outer layers made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. This design mimicked the appearance of silver without the high cost, a necessary move made after the Coinage Act of 1965, when silver became too valuable for everyday coin production. Because of the copper core, worn 1982 quarters may sometimes display a faint reddish tint along the edges or even on the surfaces where the nickel layer has thinned. In terms of mintage numbers, the Philadelphia Mint struck around 500 million quarters, and the Denver Mint produced approximately 480 million quarters. San Francisco minted about 3.8 million proof quarters for collector sets. Despite the high mintage, the lack of mint sets, and the heavy circulation of these coins means that many surviving 1982 quarters are well worn. Finding examples with sharp details, clean fields, and no wear is quite difficult, and coins grading MS65, Mint State 65, or higher are considered scarce and desirable. Another unique feature of the 1982 quarter series is the emergence of varieties, particularly related to the clarity of the dates. Collectors recognize 2 major types: the strong date and the weak date varieties. A strong date 1982 quarter shows bold, sharply struck numerals in the year, whereas the weak date variety features much fainter, softer numbers. The weak date effect was caused by worn or improperly prepared dies. These weak date coins are especially collectible and can command premiums, particularly in higher grades. The most famous weak date coin for the 1982 quarter is the 1982 P weak date, which has become a minor key variety for modern quarter collectors. In addition to date varieties, error coins from 1982 also attract attention. Examples include off-center strikes, double strikes, struck-through grease errors, and clipped planchets. While not exceedingly common, such errors are eagerly sought by collectors and can greatly enhance the value of a 1982 quarter, depending on the severity and visibility of the error. From a collector's perspective, the 1982 quarter presents both challenges and opportunities. Circulated examples are plentiful and inexpensive, but true uncirculated coins, especially with a strong date, can be surprisingly valuable. A certified MS65 or MS66 example from either Philadelphia or Denver can sell for anywhere from $25 to over $100, and coins with even higher grades or exceptional eye appeal can reach significantly higher prices at auction. Proof examples from San Francisco, meanwhile, are usually available in deep cameo contrast, although premium prices are reserved for coins graded PR69 DCAM or higher. In terms of historical significance, the 1982 quarter reminds us of a time when the U.S. Mint, like many American institutions, had to adjust to new economic realities. The decision not to issue mint sets was a temporary measure, as mint sets returned in 1984. But the scarcity created in 1982 and 1983 has had a lasting impact on the collecting world. Moreover, the year 1982 represents the twilight of the original Washington Quarter series before significant design and production innovations began to take hold in the late 1980s and 1990s. In conclusion, the 1982 United States quarter dollar is far more than just a common pocket change coin. It is a piece of American history minted during a challenging economic era, a symbol of both resilience and tradition. Whether collected for its varieties, its relative scarcity and high grades, or simply for its connection to a pivotal time in U.S. minting history, the 1982 quarter continues to fascinate numismatists and historians alike. Holding a 1982 quarter today is holding a small yet enduring artifact of American perseverance, craftsmanship, and everyday life. The 1988 United States quarter dollar, commonly called the 1988 Washington quarter, is a familiar but historically significant issue within American coinage. The design continues the long-running tradition established in 1932 when the Washington quarter was first introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1988, the design by John Flanagan, based on the famous sculpture of Washington by Jean-Antoine Houdon, had become an enduring symbol of American currency. Although it would eventually be replaced just over a decade later by the state quarters program, the 1988 quarter represents the final stretch of the original Washington quarter's uninterrupted run. The obverse of the 1988 quarter features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed to project strength, dignity, and leadership. Above Washington's head is the bold Liberty, a powerful reminder of the founding principles of the nation. To the lower left of the bust, the phrase, "In God We Trust," is inscribed, while the date, 1988, is centered at the bottom. The style of the design in 1988 reflects minor refinements made over the decades to improve the clarity and sharpness of details, particularly in the hair, face, and the lettering, thanks to evolving minting technologies. Turning to the reverse, the design remains the same as it had since 1932, a heraldic eagle with its wings spread wide, standing atop a bundle of arrows that symbolizes military readiness. Beneath the eagle are two olive branches, representing America's desire for peace. Surrounding the image are the United States of America at the top, e pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, just above the eagle, and quarter dollar at the bottom, indicating the coin's denomination. Despite the simplicity of the design, it carries deep symbolic meaning related to the country's values and history. The mint marks for the 1988 quarter are an important detail for collectors. Quarters were struck at 3 different facilities. That year, Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D, mint mark; and San Francisco, S, mint mark. The mint mark is found on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Coins from Philadelphia and Denver were intended for general circulation, while San Francisco produced proof coins for collectors only. Proof coins are struck using highly polished dies and special planchets, giving them mirror-like fields and frosted raised details, making them particularly attractive to numismatists. In terms of metal composition, the 1988 quarter continued the standard-clad structure introduced in the 1960s. The outer layers are made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, while the core is pure copper. This copper-nickel sandwich construction provides durability and a silver-like appearance without the cost associated with real silver. It's worth noting that although earlier quarters before 1965 were composed of 90% silver, the rising price of silver during that period necessitated the change to the copper-nickel-clad composition we see in the 1988 issues. The mintages for the 1988 quarter were quite large, Philadelphia produced about 562 million quarters, while Denver produced approximately 596 million. San Francisco, focusing on collector-quality proof coins, minted around 3.2 million proofs. These high mintages mean that most 1988 quarters remain common today, especially in circulated condition. However, finding uncirculated examples, especially in top grades, MS66 and above, can be more challenging and valuable due to the nature of circulation wear and handling. For collectors, the 1988 quarter holds particular interest in higher grades. Because there were no major mint set interruptions in the late 1980s, as there had been earlier in the decade, there is a supply of higher quality 1988 quarters from mint sets. However, achieving truly exceptional examples with full luster, sharply struck details and minimal contact marks is not easy. Quarters graded MS67, Mint State 67, or higher by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC are rare and can fetch strong premiums. Meanwhile, proof coins graded PR69 DCAM, Proof 69 Deep Cameo are relatively affordable, but those achieving perfect PR70 DCAM status can be quite scarce and command high prices among collectors of modern proof coins. There are no major recognized varieties for the 1988 quarter, unlike earlier years where weak dates or doubled dies created notable subtypes. However, error coins are always a possibility. Collectors occasionally find 1988 quarters with striking errors, such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, and struck-through debris errors. These error coins, while rare, are sought after and can significantly increase the value of an otherwise ordinary quarter, depending on the severity and visual impact of the error. In terms of condition, circulated 1988 quarters show typical signs of wear: flattening on Washington's cheek and hair, smoothing of the eagle's feathers, and loss of luster. Coins in higher mint state grades, however, retain a bright, frosty appearance and exhibit sharp detail in Washington's hair and the fine lines of the eagle's wings and body. When assessing a 1988 quarter for collecting purposes, numismatists pay close attention to the strike quality, how well the coin's design features are brought out, and the preservation of surfaces, minimal bag marks or scratches. From a historical perspective, the 1988 quarter is a product of the late Cold War era. It circulated during a period of economic expansion under President Ronald Reagan and witnessed important events like the beginnings of the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. Although the coin itself remained traditional and unchanged in design, it was part of a society on the cusp of significant transformations, both domestically and internationally. Just a few years later, the Washington quarter would undergo a major evolution with the introduction of the State Quarters program in 1999, bringing new designs to the reverse side for the first time in over 65 years. In monetary terms, most circulated 1988 quarters are worth face value, 25 cents, due to their high mintage and availability. However, nice uncirculated coins can sell for $1 to $5 depending on quality, and those graded MS67 or higher can bring $100 to $300 or more at auction. Proof coins are commonly available for $2 to $5 unless certified as perfect PR70s, in which case prices can rise sharply. High-grade examples, especially those from original proof sets or mint sets, are often targeted by collectors building modern quarter collections. In conclusion, while the 1988 United States quarter dollar may appear at first glance to be an ordinary modern coin, it holds an important place within the broader narrative of American coinage. As one of the final issues of the classic Washington quarter era before major design changes and the explosion of commemorative coinage in the 1990s, the 1988 quarter represents the steady continuity of American traditions during a period of global change. Whether casually found in pocket change, carefully preserved in collector albums, or analyzed for subtle strike variations and errors, the 1988 quarter remains a fascinating piece of living history. a small but enduring symbol of the United States during the closing years of the 20th century. The 1986 United States quarter dollar, often referred to simply as the 1986 Washington quarter, remains an important and iconic coin in the landscape of modern American coinage. As part of a series that began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the 1986 issue continued the tradition of honoring the first president of the United States with John Flanagan's celebrated design. By 1986, the Washington quarter had already become a staple of American currency, instantly recognizable to millions and a key piece of everyday commerce. However, when looked at closely, the 1986 quarter has its own unique context and significance within numismatic history. The obverse of the 1986 quarter showcases the left-facing bust of George Washington. Above his head arches the word liberty, an everlasting reminder of the nation's foundational principles. To the lower left, the motto, "In God We Trust," appears, and centered at the bottom of the coin is the date, 1986. The design is sharply executed, with Washington's hair tied, in a ribbon at the nape of his neck and subtle detailing on his face and clothing. By 1986, the U.S. Mint had made slight refinements to the dies over the decades, ensuring that even mass-produced coins maintained strong clarity and consistency in their striking, though coins struck with worn dies sometimes display minor softness. In detail, the reverse of the coin retains the familiar image first introduced in 1932, a powerful bald eagle with wings spread wide, perched atop a bundle of arrows symbolizing military strength and readiness. Beneath the eagle are two olive branches, representing America's desire for peace. The surrounding the eagle are United States of America at the top, a pluribus unum, out of many one, above the eagle's head, and quarter dollar at the bottom, indicating the denomination. This classical heraldic design by Flanagan was intended to be straightforward, yet deeply symbolic, blending strength, peace, and unity into a single image, values central to the American identity. When it comes to mint marks, 3 facilities struck quarters in 1986: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins minted at Philadelphia bear no mint mark, while those from Denver carry a small D mint mark. Meanwhile, San Francisco produced proof coins for collectors, which bear an S mint mark. The mint mark appears on the obverse side, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. While Philadelphia and Denver coins were made for general circulation, San Francisco's proofs were struck using specially prepared dies and planchets, resulting in coins with brilliant mirror-like fields and frosted devices. In terms of composition, the 1986 quarter continued the clad structure established after the Coinage Act of 1965. This means the coin's outer layers are composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a core of pure copper. The weight of each quarter is approximately 567 grams, and the diameter remains at 24.3 millimeters. The clad composition mimics the appearance of silver but offers greater durability and lower production costs. Although silver was once used in quarters before 1965, rising metal prices led to the change to copper-nickel clad coins, a standard that continues to this day for circulating quarters. The mintages for the 1986 quarter were relatively high, reflecting America's growing economy and increasing demand for coinage and commerce. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 551 million quarters, while the Denver Mint produced about 504 million. The San Francisco Mint struck around 3.3 million proof quarters intended for inclusion in proof sets sold to collectors. Due to these high production numbers, the 1986 quarter is quite common in circulated condition today. However, as always in numismatics, condition matters greatly. Pristine, uncirculated coins, especially those with strong strikes and few blemishes, are much less common and can command respectable premiums. For collectors, condition is the key when it comes to 1986 quarters. Circulated examples are abundant and usually worth only face value. However, coins that have been preserved in mint sets or found loose in true mint state, MS grades, especially MS 66 and above, are considerably scarcer. Coins graded MS 67 are rare and often command significant premiums at auctions. In particular, collectors look for coins with full, sharp strikes, where all the details of Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers are clear, and minimal bag marks or contact scratches. Proof coins from San Francisco are highly collectible, especially those with deep cameo decam contrast, a striking visual effect where the design elements are frosted and stand out boldly against a deeply mirrored background. Proof. 1986 S-quarters graded PR69 decam are fairly common, but finding a perfect PR70 decam example is significantly rarer and more valuable. Many collectors seek out such flawless coins to complete modern proof quarter collections. There are no major varieties known for the 1986 quarter, unlike some earlier years which had doubled dies or significant die variations. However, errors can be found and are highly prized when they surface. Known errors for 1986 quarters include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and struck-through errors where debris or grease affected the die. Such error coins can sometimes sell for several times their face value depending on the severity and the visual appeal of the error. From a historical viewpoint, the 1986 quarter circulated during the second term of President Ronald Reagan, a period characterized by significant economic growth, the winding down of the Cold War, and major technological and cultural shifts within the United States. Although the design remained traditional and unchanged, the country was undergoing transformations in finance, technology, and global politics. Thus, the 1986 quarter can be seen as a small but tangible artifact from a vibrant and optimistic period in American history. In monetary terms, a circulated 1986 quarter holds its face value of 25 cents. However, uncirculated Philadelphia and Denver coins can range in value from $1 to $5 depending on grade and eye appeal, while coins graded MS 67 can command values of $100 to $250 or more. Proof coins from San Francisco are generally valued around $3 to $8 in PR69 decam condition, while perfect PR70 decam proofs can sell for $50 to $150 or more, depending on collector demand and market conditions. In conclusion, the 1986 United States quarter dollar is a wonderful example of traditional American coinage during a transitional period in history. It represents the stability and strength of U.S. coinage design before the sweeping changes that would begin with the 50-state quarters program in 1999. While not a rare or exotic coin in circulated condition, finding pristine examples, proofs, and unusual mint errors provides opportunities for both beginner and advanced collectors. The 1986 quarter reminds us that even the most ordinary items we encounter every day carry stories. Stories of craftsmanship, economy, tradition, and the enduring values of a nation. Would you also like me to create a special short section on valuable 1986 error coins, or a grading guide for spotting high-value examples, or if you're preparing a YouTube script, I can format it into a ready-to-read format? Let me know.